Hi, breathers. This is Tracy.
This is Lauren.
And this is The Air We Breathe.
Welcome all.
Today I want to call myself out.
We love a good call out.
I did bad. So I've
Bad
been
girl.
I'm not a big celebrity gossiper, but like I'm certainly not anti if it comes across my desk. I
love a juicy gossip.
As I was seeing this whole like drama about It Ends With Us, and I've read a Colleen Hoover. They're not bad, but
No.
I was sort of put off by just even before it became a movie, I was put off by the whole like the way people who were reading it felt like it was not doing justice to domestic violence.
The PR of it, right? When Blake Lively was just even at the press junkets, it just looked like, grab your girls and have some champagne and get your flowers out. It's a good one. I'm like, what?
For sure. But let me pause and give you a little background. Even just like in the book talk community, the book was getting smoke for that same thing. Like to not like they were like it was romanticizing
essay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, because then people were like, what about 50 Shades of Grey? And it's like, that was like a consensual.
It was consensual. I mean, there was a contract, bro. But let's not get into it. Because I could.
I know you could.
Brainworms.
So I was like not buying it. Like I was not interested already. But I like Blake Lively a lot. I loved Gossip Girl and like her whole thing, like her and Ryan Reynolds. Like anytime a celebrity couple's like roasting each other on TikTok or whatever on Twitter, I'm like, this is cute.
Well, they were always authentic. Every time they were on camera with each other was very authentic.
It seemed so, yes.
It seemed so.
So then the movie came out and they were like, Blake Lively's canceled. But I'm like, no. And then all these rumors started coming out. Like I was going down the rabbit hole and I was very easily convinced that like, oh, she's just so fake. And there are some interviews where like the way she talks about her mom or like the way she'll talk to the interviewer. But like that, you could chalk that up to spoiled. Like it wasn't out of the realm of.
Yes, but some of it was just like, whoa, right? You're coming out of pocket with that. Like I thought one of the interviews where she's like, oh my God, she's obviously pregnant. And she was giving her props on being pregnant. And she just went off on this interviewer. How dare you call me out on my physical appearance during this interview when she was obviously impregnated?
Yeah.
Like 7 months in. Like you can't hide that shit.
From like that one interview where she was like, I don't know, should I give them my did you see that?
Yep.
Where it was like they were asking like, what if a domestic violence survivor came up to you? Like what would you say? And I think at first when I was not like mad at her yet, I thought like, well, she's just like doing a bad job making a joke, like whatever. Right. But then the more I was like kind of reading stuff, I was like, no, I don't love this. I'm kind of on this guy's side.
Right. And Justin Baldoni was in Jane the Virgin, which I watched all those episodes. And like I've seen interviews with him.
Yeah.
And he's never had bad press with any of his other female co-stars that I've seen.
Yeah.
Of course, all that stuff can come to light during the trial.
Yeah.
But he just never struck me as somebody that would be that insidious.
Okay. So you're kind of feeding into my whole thing here. So sorry to tell you. Come into my web where I inform you have misogyny in you. Because then like recently now, like a lot of her co-stars who don't seem like the type that would bullshit around are like, no, this is not accurate. And now like she's bringing up all this stuff. And I'm like, holy shit. I hook, line, and sinker based on the media I saw vilified her. And let him be like, oh, poor this guy. I was so quick to judge her. And now it's coming up and I'm like, fuck, like, why was I so quick to judge this woman? And I realized it's because she was a woman and he's a guy. And like, I don't, you know me, I'm a girl. I don't really,
you stand with the ladies.
I don't fuck with men. I don't know if I can avoid it. Like I'm going to usually side with the woman, but the celebrity piece of it, I think dehumanizes them enough that I was like, oh, some little bits are still trickling around in there. Because then I was thinking about the whole Amber Heard, Johnny Depp thing. And so I went and watched 2/3 of that documentary. I will admit, I literally could not finish it because of like, he reminded me of my dad, like in the way he was like interacting with her. And I'm like, there doesn't even have to be a good or bad. Like both of them can be in both of these situations. Why can't we just both of them can be shitty in different ways?
Right.
But like even if Blake Lively was mean to him or whatever, if he sexually harassed her, he sexually harassed her. Like there's no excuse for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with Amber Heard. As I was watching it, I'm like, he's this big, powerful celebrity, and you thought you were gonna like get revenge from his abuse, because I do think he was abusive to her.
I think they were abusive to each other, and I think they both gave.
But
there was something valuable with each other doing it.
Okay, but here's my question, and I am not somebody that's like women can hit men and men can't hit women. I don't think anybody should be hitting.
I think everybody should leave their hands to themselves.
Right.
If you're a woman and you hit a man, I don't believe that it would be acceptable for a man to just lay hands on a woman, number one.
Yeah.
But if you're putting your hands on anybody without the thought of being touched back,
yeah,
like I think that's ignorant. I'm like, I would never put my hands on anybody without the thought process of me getting lit up. You know what I mean?
Right. Like you're never going to be like, it's only okay for me to do
Correct.
it. But, and again, I'm bringing my own like background and history to it. The power dynamic in their relationship was super off balance. Like she was like young, new, his movie was what was making her famous.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people like no one was on her side. It was like so quick to just like, she's just a villain. Oh, she's just an actress. But nobody was saying that shit about Johnny Depp.
Right.
And that's the piece of it. Like, I don't know who's right. I don't know what the truth will be. But I know not once but twice I fell into the trap as someone who, like, if I'm falling into it and I don't even, like, break for white dudes. Like, I break for squirrels, but I don't break for white dudes. Like, you can wait. I'm going to keep driving. See you later.
Right. I think a lot of it is with the whole Johnny Depp thing. I was one of those people that was watching it like on, listening to it on the TikTokers and keeping myself informed on the whole trial. It was a defamation trial. So there was a lot of stuff that you listened to, and a lot of the transcripts that came out. They're both fucked up individuals.
Yes, they're both.
Like Amber Heard must have been in this relationship to lift herself up, and she definitely, I'd see to some extent, he manipulated her and she manipulated him. I was like, they're just a bunch of like, in my opinion, you've got too much money, you're bored, and now
wait, but she didn't have that much money. How did she manipulate?
She got Aquaman because of Johnny Depp.
Okay, but did she manipulate him, or did she operate within a system that is?
I think both.
Sexist?
I think
like
both.
what's manipulate? How did she manipulate him?
How do women manipulate men to get what they want?
Well, you tell me, man.
Some in that position, I guess I would say it was sex.
Right, but he can have sex with whoever. He didn't need.
But Amber Heard was the young starlet. Everybody loved her.
Listen, I'm not saying
she was an acquisition for him.
Right, but if she's an acquisition for him, how can your acquisition manipulate you? Like, my children can't manipulate me. Like, by definition, they're kids. They're not manipulating me. They might be doing fucked up shit to get what they need or want. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the piece of it that I feel like, why is she on an even playing field with him when it's convenient, but not when it's not convenient? Like, he's the big star, so we're going to back him. I know she was manipulative, but I mean, take the celebrity out of it, and it's like some guy, some CEO finds this like secretary, whatever, pulls her out of the pool.
Oh, we went to 50 Shades real quick, didn't we?
I don't know. I've never seen any. I could not tell you.
I really need to broaden your horizons.
No, you're always trying to watch dirty movies with me. Like, I don't understand it.
I want to watch it with you. I just want to cue it on your Netflix, man.
What do you mean cue it on my Netflix? Like, you're gonna trick me into it? Like, what am I watching? Ooh, whoops. Wait a minute. Contract. My point is, I think that she is a hot mess. She could have personality disorders, sure, but I don't think there's no conversations about the fact that he asked for it. Like, nobody's like, well, he asked for it. He sought her out. He had her come over to his place. He seduced her. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to marry her. I mean, I just don't think this man at his age and his life experience was getting duped by her.
I mean, Johnny Depp in his heyday was attractive and he still has the riz, but I think it definitely is like when you put them both together, like I'm not
Oh God, you want to defend Johnny Depp?
I do, but he's not attractive like anymore.
Wait, can I tell you? I have a friend that hates Johnny Depp.
Really?
To her, the bones, like the nerve endings in her teeth hate Johnny Depp.
Wow.
And we were inebriated and we were all talking about like we were actually playing the game who is the grossest celebrity you still kind of want to sleep with. And she's like, here's what I'm going to do to Johnny Depp. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to seduce him. And then I'm going to give him a hand job. And just before he finishes, I'm going to be like, no, thanks, Johnny Depp.
That's a lot. That's
and
a
when
lot.
I tell
That's
you,
like
I'm like, can
some vengeance in there, man.
Can we get some of the logistics of this plan? Like, first of all, how are you going to say to him, like, just a handy?
Just
Don't
a handy.
ask for anything else. How are you so confident in your HJ skills?
Right.
That this is like a given. It is a given that with the quickness, I will be able to get in and get out, get him just to the, and then be like, no. And that, like, you think that's going to just decimate him.
Like, how dare you?
Like, you know who can't handle blue balls? Johnny Depp. So here's what I'm going to do. But it was clearly a thought out plan.
That's a thought. That's premeditation.
I mean, that is small time.
I don't know if I have the. I don't have the spoons for that.
I don't want to give a hand job to people I like. Why would I? Under what circumstances? Like it's.
I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put my hands on this man's private parts just to the point where he's just about to bust, and I'm gonna say, "No, thank you, sir."
Well, and also it was like, just the. There was no ocean.
I'm not gonna put my mouth on it. I'm just gonna use my hands. That's great. Well, I wouldn't put my mouth on Johnny Depp's private parts either way. I don't think he likes to shower.
Who does?
If I have that much money, bro, I'm showering. Like, I couldn't even imagine the soaps.
No, if I had that much money, I would just have I would have my swimming pool and my bathing pool.
I fucking hate you for that. You know what? I just got a picture of like Eddie Murphy and Coming to America. The royal privates have been cleaned. And the chick comes from underwater. You never see that movie, Coming to America? He's in the bath, a huge bath, and this bitch comes up like she's been snorkeling, and she was washing his
oh my God,
his
I would
cash and prizes.
Yeah, but I'd want it to be robots. I don't want other living creatures doing it.
I mean,
I want those fish.
No,
that just like
that would give me the heat, dude. That would give me the heebie-jeebies. I couldn't do it. Ugh.
I don't know.
I don't want fish around my undercarriage, bro.
We would train them. Boundaries, Nibbles.
This is totally making it
too close for comfort.
Whoa.
Excuse me, Gerald. That's a no zone.
I can't with you. That was great.
Oh, look at Cookie getting my knee. Good job, girl.
Stop.
Listen, if I was that rich, I'd name my tiny chewy fish.
Lawrence, you've been on my pinky toe for like 5 minutes.
Lawrence, he's needy as fuck.
He's needy as fuck. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, my point is these people are so one-dimensional to us. It's like we feel like we have to take a side and we have to stick to whatever notion we have of them, no matter what.
The fact that keeps me intrigued with this is like Justin Baldoni keeps coming out with receipts on his end too. And that was like where he was put in the basement with his family during one of the press junkets or something. And he left a voice note and put it out and leaked it. And we're in the basement because we've been ushered that we can't hold the same space with Blake.
Okay, but where's the corroboration to that? Is there corroboration? Because like, look, let me get my phone. Please note, Lauren is holding me hostage in her laundry room right now.
It was on his phone. It was during the timestamp is real.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and he had his family with him. I don't know all the logistics.
Have you not seen Gone Girl? Anything can happen.
Correct, but on both sides.
But that's what I'm saying. Yes, on both sides. But both times, I and many others have been really quick to jump on the bandwagon of hating the female.
Oh well, yeah. I think that Blake Lively is either I don't know, man. I feel like she's got a little bit of a chip on her shoulder every time, and then that doesn't mean that didn't happen to her. I'm not trying to
Right.
negate that. I just want it to be, I just want to know what actually happened. I think I'm thirsty for like an honest like representation of what happened and not just what media is feeding me. Because what it turned out to be was a big battle between Blake's PR person and Justin's PR person.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, they hated each other. So they're like, yeah, we'll disintegrate his career. And then
Yeah.
Justin's like, well, we'll get her back. And it's like, really, y'all got too much money. Are you bored?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yes.
Take it to court and shut the fuck up about it.
Well, and
both of y'all.
I guess my thing is like, okay, you've mentioned that she had a chip on her shoulder.
For all the interviews I've seen of her, she's been kind of a bitch.
You've always thought this about her, or you've recently?
Right. And
Wait,
that's PR.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so what PR made you feel some type of way about Justin Baldoni?
That's the thing. It could just be, him presenting this person to the media of being completely politically correct and sensitive to SA victims and doing his homework. And meanwhile, there's, Blake Lively's doing an interview and she's yelling at this girl for saying congrats on the baby. And it's almost like, well, why do you even have to be a bitch like that? Why can't you just be nice?
I will not fight with anyone if they're like, I think Blake Lively's a bitch. You could be a bitch and still be being mistreated.
Yes.
But that's, I think, the crux of it. Is like, you don't get to be both. Like,
you can't be both.
Men can be both. Women can't be both.
And I think that's bullshit.
Right.
But like, I want to see all the I'm going to take all the information I'm hearing from TMZ with a grain of fucking salt. Well, like, I would really like to be in that courtroom, to be honest with you. And it's like with, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I saw the reels. I saw all this stuff. And when she was talking, I got stung by a bee. And it was like the worst acting, bro. Like, a lot of it was just like, I listened to it. I was like, whoa, child.
I think when I watched that, what I took from it was, this girl is out of her depth and is trying to out of her depth.
That was pretty funny.
You're welcome. I think she thought she could play with the big boys and she couldn't. And so I don't doubt that he like fucked around, but she thought he was going to find out and he wasn't. She underestimated.
Well, they disassembled a lot of the shit that she brought up against him.
Yeah.
And with the door and slamming it and him trying to break open the door and her doing, I was just like, it just logistically the math ain't mathing for a lot of that. And from a legal standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Depp had done some shit. He had admitted that he was addicted to drugs and that he was drinking and that, when they told him he had a pint or a pitcher of wine.
Yeah.
He never, the thing is, he never argued that. He always owned up to that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that was very interesting. And I was one of those that was like team Depp.
But I don't think they picked him apart the way they picked her apart. Like, I think you're right.
They tried to nail him for all the drugs.
Right. But it also like, it isn't it. There's no excuse really for like slamming shit and slapping.
Oh, of course.
And it's like the idea that like, well, she provoked him, she this, she that. Like, I just feel in my heart like if we could rewind, forget, and switch the genders and have each one do the exact same thing, I feel like everybody'd still be on Johnny Depp's side. Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Because I don't think it would be okay if she had been on drugs. Like, I don't think it would be okay if she was, like, clearly drinking.
Well, they're like looking for an excuse to be on Johnny Depp's side.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, they showed all those pictures that she had taken of him, like, passing out places. And I'm sure she was like, this is fucking gross. You got to stop doing this. And yeah, maybe she was making fun of him to her friends. She might have been a very shitty wife and is maybe a really shitty friend and a shitty person to be around. But, like, that doesn't mean he can, like, use her as a punching bag. It doesn't mean that he can. But it's like if she has if they can point to anything with her, then it negates anything with him. Is how it felt to me, like, watching I just watched the documentary, but, like, all these guys like men's rights, like free Johnny Depp. Like, really? Free him?
It was a defamation case.
Like, but that's the thing. That's how hard these people were going.
No, I know.
So
Like, nobody was going to jail. That's the thing. It was a defamation trial. He would have ended up having to pay a lot of money.
yeah.
And they were both fighting so hard for their own reputations.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's cool, and I understand that. But what's true will come out eventually, hopefully. But the problem was the spin it took in media.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like I like listening to the truth. I want to hear all the crust. I want to see all of it.
Right. But even listening to a trial,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting a curated version of what you know what I mean?
But it's straight out of their mouths. It's like if I'm listening to Amber Heard on the stand, and I'm like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to take her side.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, ugh, yikes.
Yeah.
Did that bitch really say that? Oh my God, for real?
Yeah.
This heifer shit in his bed.
Well, did they prove that? Did they prove that she
There were
shit?
pictures of human fecal matter in his bed.
Yeah, but he also had a dog that was like
a Yorkie. This is human-sized shit. There were like human-sized turds. And pictures. I know, right? So it's like, I don't even know. My brain is like, wait a minute. Like, I will never be mad. I'm like, I guess I never been there. Nobody's ever like hit me. I've never been a victim of domestic violence, but I don't know if I'd ever come to that level where I'm like, I'm going to take a dump in this dude's bed. I mean, like,
pick a man. I'll go take a dump in his bed right now. No, that's not true. Actually, I shouldn't say that.
How do you cue it?
I'm very poop shy. I would have to collect the sample.
I would have to take a glass of Metamucil and a stool softener and
well, maybe she did. There's not pictures of her squatting.
Well, right, but I'd have to eat three White Castles for me to even cue a poop to even have a soil someone's bed.
Not that you've thought about it.
But I'm thinking about right now. I'm like, even if I did, it would have looked like I took Metamucil. Like, it wouldn't be no form to it.
Did they DNA? This is getting out of hand. The amount of unsolicited, just like fucked up shit you have said to me in the last 3 hours. I've never asked for a trigger warning in my life from something. Not that I don't respect that they exist. But I can't
breathe.
This is it. It's enough with you.
I can't breathe.
I've had it.
Oh my God. Okay, we got to move on.
Where does this come from? I'm sure it comes from our families. I'm sure it comes from whatever, but I have to blame TV and movies. So I was trying to come up with like 2 movies that are kind of a similar arc, but one is male and one is female.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got something, and I
see the parallels between them.
Yeah. And what the differences were. And obviously we can't say like, oh, it's definitely gender, but I'm gonna say it's definitely gender because it's my podcast, and I'm not writing a doctorate. I'm just talking some shit.
Don't send your emails. We're here for a good time.
We said what we said. So actually, go ahead, comment. Yeah, reach out on social media. Tell us you're wrong. Air We Breathe Pod on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
You can also look up the name Air Pod. First name Air, last name Pod.
Yes.
So I want to examine Legally Blonde and Good Will Hunting.
Man.
You may not see it yet, but I think you will.
I do have the plot in front of me, Tracy. Would you like me to read it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Elle Woods, a fashionable and underestimated young woman, enrolls at Harvard Law School to win back her ex-boyfriend, but discovers her own talent and passion for the law.
She did it.
I did it.
I meant Elle did it, but you also did do it.
We both did it.
Okay.
And we bended it and snapped it.
Now, can you tell us what Good Will Hunting is about?
The plot. Will Hunting, a working class genius, is discovered by a professor and encouraged to realize his potential. With the help of therapy, he begins to accept his talents and move forward in life.
What a wonderful arc.
I mean, that just sounds so wholesome to me.
Okay. So here's what I've come up with as to why I think these are the same movie. They're both undervalued individuals for different reasons.
Yes.
They're proving their intelligence.
Correct.
And they're earning respect in like an elite academic setting, in an Ivy League setting.
MIT and Harvard, yeah.
How is Elle treated
She was mocked mercilessly.
Before we even, what is the inciting trauma that leads Elle to feel like she needs to go to Harvard?
She literally is just trying to get her boyfriend back.
So why does she need to get him back? What happened?
Well, he breaks up with her because he's going to Harvard.
Right.
So she's like, I can go to Harvard too.
To get the man. She doesn't expect to stay.
Anything
No.
or to learn anything, for Christ's sake.
She doesn't want a JD. She wants an MRS.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And then when she gets there, how's she treated?
Just mocked.
Why?
Completely bullied.
What'd she do wrong?
Well, she's walking Barbie doll. And everybody was just like, oh, you're stupid. You're a blonde, stupid girl. Look at you in your pink scarf.
And your notebook.
Yep.
And your little adorable dog.
Why are you even here?
Why are you even here?
Why did you even waste your time? You're not smart enough to walk through the door, bitch.
Even other women treated her like that.
God, yeah.
And
women
the professors.
Were the worst.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was almost like the women around her ex-boyfriend like attacked her. Why are you even here?
Yeah.
Why would you even think about competing?
Yeah.
In this arena.
But it's not even that they're worried about her competing for the lawyer. They're worried about him competing for.
Well, because
them competing for him.
Right. Because let's be realistic. She left no crumbs. She was a good looking bitch.
She was a good looking bitch.
And she was really smart. She just didn't know she was smart.
I feel like she knew she was smart in her way, but she didn't. Because she seemed like pretty confident that she would get in.
Oh, she was riding on pretty girl privilege. She was in a sorority in her other school.
Well, right, but she also like in her little like bikini interview video, which but she did have like valid metrics. Like I was president of my sorority. I had the grades. Yeah, you know what I mean?
The math was mathing.
Correct.
She had the mind to some extent, but it was almost like she felt like she needed to hide it behind the bubble gum. Right? I have to hide my brain behind the bubble gum because the boys don't like the brain.
Yes, her ultimate goal was to get a man. Right? Because she was like, we're getting
married. We're going to have this. We're going to What do you think the parallels are between Elle and Will Hunting? Or where's the dichotomy?
Well, he was inherently respected. Like once they saw what he was doing and realized he wasn't like messing with the because you remember he
solved the problem.
He solved the unsolvable blackboard. And at first they're like, don't erase that or like don't mess with that. He's like, oh, I'm not. It's not right. Here, I fixed it. Like whatever. And then once he proved himself, that was it. That was him proving himself.
And he didn't have to answer for himself ever again. He was considered a genius.
Even though he was a janitor, which like in a lot of institutions like that is not respected as it should be. So I think that is like the first thing, right? Is like,
well, they're custodial members now.
Listen, I would rather hang out with that janitor than that professor. 1,000%.
1,000%.
But I don't. It's not to be ignored that it's out of character for them to not look down on him.
Oh God,
you know.
Well, Elle had to constantly prove herself,
right,
throughout the whole movie. Every step she took in her pink stilettos was questioned,
right.
Whereas Will literally mocked up a problem on a blackboard at MIT while he was taking the garbage out. And they asked him one question.
He was mopping the floor, but go ahead.
My bad. And they asked him, was like, how'd you get to that answer? And he just said this and this and this and this plus this and this, A and B and Z. And they were like, oh shit, you really are smart. Why don't we get you some therapy so you can go to the school?
Right.
What?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Miss Elle makes one mistake in the first whatever days of law school. And then she is clawing her way back. They're like punking her,
reading her. They're trying fucking filth.
So she did not, even though she fully got into Harvard Law, they were treating her like she didn't belong.
I mean,
and this guy, they were like, "Here, we'll take your mop. Go ahead and go into this classroom."
I mean, they told her there was a costume party, and she showed up cute as hell, and there was no costume party.
Oh my God, but the balls on that chick to just stay.
What was it, Selma Blair?
Yeah.
Well,
he gets therapy, right? So he essentially has a mentor.
Robin Williams.
Super dynamic relationship.
Beautiful.
They learn a lot about each other. They fight. Now let's talk about the mentors that she had to work with. Okay. So the first guy sexually harasses her.
1,000%.
And then okay, Luke Wilson helped her, right? he seemed pretty nice.
Yeah.
They end up getting in bed. It ends up being a romantic relationship.
Mhm.
So it's not like it was just like somebody taking
Platonic.
an interest, right?
Oh god, yeah.
Exactly. And it's
How was
cool.
that cool? You won a court case? You're actually not dumb? Wow, you just became really attractive to me. Not only do you really carry pink well and you can bend and snap with the best of them,
Oh god, she could.
but
You make me want a hot dog real
real bad.
bad.
But yeah, I don't understand why. And then Goodwill Hunting was a Mini Driver.
Mini Driver.
Yep. And that poor like I'm like she tried her best
Yeah.
to like and was
He was screwed up. He had trauma.
of course. And she even put up boundaries with him. And and then she even tried to make it work and then let's bring this girl around with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the movie it ended up turning I'm going to go see about a girl.
There was dimensions.
There was I was gonna say there was a lot more depth to their relationship
Well,
rather than, "Hey, you're pretty and you're kinda smart. Let's fuck."
and there was more depth. And I understand this was not a comedy, but like if you think about what Will's arc is, he's resolving emotional trauma and he's like trying to prove his worth to himself.
Yes.
Whereas Elle, even though she knows her worth, still has to work to prove it to everybody else. Because like, look, I finally made it. I'm valedictorian. Like I get to give this speech.
Yes. And she's still questioned. She really could not get away or escape the dumb blonde. I mean, the movie's called Legally Blonde.
Right.
So the whole idea or premises of the movie was she's blonde, she's cute, she wears a bikini, and she's smart too.
Well, and the only people that like saw her value was like Jennifer Coolidge's character.
Yeah.
And you kind of discount her.
Right.
But really, she was like whoever discovered Goodwill Hunting, she was that guy.
Right.
She was that MIT professor that was like, no, you do know what you're talking about. Like, you're great.
Right. But then it was given not to Coolidge, but it was given to Wilson.
Oh, like the final credit.
Oh,
yeah, because she had to rescue Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes. And he rescued her.
Yeah.
Because she almost got fired. She almost got, like she literally every time she tried to take 3 steps forward, she got smacked down.
Yeah.
And Luke was like, "Look, give me your hand. Me and my maleness will lift you up and save you and have people see you for who you really are.
As a real lawyer, I'll sit in."
Correct.
Right, exactly.
And I'll vouch for you.
Well, and even the ending, like she figured it out because of her knowledge of hair care. Which like is hilarious. And I liked that they made it like she knew the science behind it and that was like validating. Okay. So there's a scene where Will is at the bar, the Harvard bar. And I think this is when he meets Minnie Driver, and this douchey like smart ass Harvard guy tries to like embarrass him.
Mental pissing match.
Right. And then he like gets into an argument with him and then like effortlessly commands his respect and like puts him in his place.
Okay.
And then gets the girl and then walks up after, because that's basically what they were fighting over. And then he slaps the number on the window because he goes, "Do you like apples?" And he's like, "I guess." And he goes, "Well, I got her number. How do you like them apples?"
Oh,
and that was like his last sick burn. So he just like with very little effort is constantly just showing how brilliant he is.
I like that Boston accent, by the way.
Thank you.
Wow. Giving your flowers. That was good.
Thank you. Okay, so I would compare that to once Elle like figures out how law school works and has gotten the computer and has done the research, and then she like drags all their asses through that one class and is like, when they're fighting about whether or not it's like a custody battle, and she's like, well, then by that instance, like anytime a man had an emission on his own, couldn't that be a case of abandonment?
I remember.
First of all, they treat it like a lucky guess. Like they're still dismissing it even when she's saying stuff.
Oh, she did the work.
She doesn't even, it takes her a lot to like feel confident to say any of it. Right? This was in class. Ain't nobody on her side in this class.
Okay.
She piques the interest of the professor.
Yes. Now I remember. Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the climax of each of these films.
I like that use of that word.
Thirsty asshole. Okay, so so Will refuses a high-paying job, and embraces his potential and decides to take control of his own destiny. That is what the internet says. It's like he's already capable. The money doesn't matter. And it's like, look at his final arc isn't even about this prestige or anything out. It's his intrinsic internal improvement. Like that is.
Would you say that's ego?
No, I think it's him seeing his worth. Like I think it's like deep growth. Like we watched this man go through therapy. Yes. We watched this man like what a tour de force performance he was able to turn in.
Oh my god!
Because of all of the shit that he went through. In comparison, yes, I would say the big climax is Elle in the taking over the case when Callahan harasses her and she's like, "I'm going to do this," and Luke Wilson's like, "I'm going to sit here and look at your ass and be the
while you're doing it."
Yeah. And he was sweet, he was whatever, but it was still, and she's had to overcome like systemic biases. She's had to like fight and claw her way to be respected,
even by the females,
even by the
women.
Yeah. Even when she tried to like fall in line with them, then her client who she loved was like, that now I don't like. There was no right way for her for a while.
Correct. And she had to be her true authentic self during that court case with the ex-model, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, she actually won the case because she was herself.
Oh, shit. All right, I like that. That makes me feel even better about it, actually.
Because she threw away the dark clothes.
The dark clothes.
Well, remember where she was I'm going to dress like a lawyer.
You're saying she stopped trying to, she went back to herself.
Correct.
Yes. That is true. And I was going to say, this is helping me because I am like bummed out that it's like she only found her passion because she was trying for a man. But the flip side of that is like what she thought she needed was a man, but she learned that this is like her passion.
She's finding herself.
She's finding herself. But it still took so much to get there. And she still ended up like doing the thing she only wanted to do because of a man.
Correct.
In the beginning.
But I mean, I think that, okay, if you're going to get into my romance brain, but Luke Wilson's character ended up falling in love with Elle Woods.
Yeah.
Right? It was the, the stumbling upon that relationship. Like it turned into being about, I'm going here to chase my ex. I'm learning more about myself. I'm uncovering the fact that this is my actual passion is to be a lawyer. And I'm not thinking, how hard is it to get into Harvard? It's actually turned into a complete life journey. And at the end of the day, she tried to change herself to assimilate. And then she ended up going back to being her true self and accomplishing something she never thought she could accomplish. And at the end of the day, she stumbled upon a man who really did like her and love her and fall in love with her for her being herself.
Agreed. And I do think they're closer than I initially was going to argue.
Right.
But we are having to do a lot more analysis to get to these conclusions with this. And again, it's a different genre of movie, but nonetheless, much like Elle Woods, we are having to do a lot more freaking work to see the growth and identify the positive, as opposed to in Good Will Hunting. It's just like, let us make sure you know what a fantastic human this person is.
Correct.
All along. Question. Like, can you point to some like examples of misogyny in your own life?
Girl.
I mean, I know we can all point to the big ones of like.
Well, I just had a situation the other day that I kind of like perked my ears up a little bit. I've been dog training for 19 years and I feel like I'm pretty good at it.
She's really good at it.
Thank you. And I'm now in a position where I train other people in my role. And the one I'm training now is a man.
Uh-huh.
And I'm doing an evaluation and he's sitting in on it. and
Wait, you're doing an evaluation of
a dog. And the owner of said dog is a man. I'm doing most of the talking. I pointed to my trainee and I said, "Wouldn't you agree?" I think we were talking about dog parks or something. I can't stand dog parks. And he was like,
people are gonna at you for that one.
"That's fine. Come for me." And I would say, "Wouldn't you agree?" And he said, "Oh yeah, totally, definitely agree." And another situation I said that I would suggest, I think it was something like kennel training or something, I don't know. And this client looked at him and said, "Would you agree?" And I let it happen. I gave him, allowed it. And I looked at him and I was like, he's like, "Oh, definitely, I would agree with Lauren." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And it almost like reassured him. And then it gets better. And then at the end of it, I walked up and I was like, "All right, well, good luck. I know you're moving to, wherever you're going. And I hope you find a trainer in that area and blah, blah, blah." And I go to shake his hand. And before I get a chance to shake his hand, he goes to shake my trainee's hand first.
Was he aware when you introduced yourselves that he was a trainee? Or did he just think
I
you were
said,
colleagues?
"This is my intern, or this is my protege."
Got it.
And he just went to shake his hand first and then shook mine. But I made sure I squeezed the fuck out of his hand and did a little turn in. I'm petty.
I mean, you tried to do it the right way.
But that's the thing that really kind of stuck to me. I was like, wow. Even in 2025, as being a dog trainer, why is it still so loud?
What's loud? Say more.
The misogyny.
So loud. Louder than the dogs barking.
Right. And I was just like, why? Like, did anybody else notice that? Like, I even asked him after the client left, and I was like, "Did you notice anything about, weird about that?" And he's like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, wow.
Nope.
But then I don't feel like I want to say anything because then I'm being the rabble rouser, right?
Oh, for sure.
I'm being the one like, "He's a misogynist, he's a toxic man, and I'm blah, 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 and I'm a feminist, and I let my armpit hair grow out." And it's like, no. So what if you let your armpit hair grow out? So what if you're, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I deserve on a expert level of my profession.
Yeah.
I deserve respect
Right.
first.
Yeah.
That was just crazy to me.
Well, and you were running the meeting.
And I never allowed anybody else to run the meeting. It was clear and present that I was navigating this show.
Right.
And it was still at the end of the day put in question.
Very
subtly.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's subtle. So it's like, what are you talking about? You're just exaggerating. You're overreacting.
You're totally overreacting.
Well, and this is your business. You don't want to mess with your business. So I don't think I would have necessarily said anything either. So this reminds me of when my husband and I were moving in together.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd gotten a moving van, we'd rented a moving truck,
mm-hmm.
and we're moving out of his stuff out of his apartment in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wrigleyville, so the parking is shit, right?
Yeah.
And he could not get the moving van into the back of the, he couldn't pull it up. It was too hard of a turn. And I said, do you want me to try it? And he's like, no. And my mom was there too. And we're both like, do you want us to try it? And he's like, no. I mean, the amount of men he had try it. I mean, some of them were like, I don't really drive. What? Even they were like,
why would you ask me? She already offered.
Well, then finally he concedes and is like, oh, okay, you guys can try it. One shot. We did it in one shot.
Nice.
My mom guided me. I got in the truck. We did it in one shot.
Fucking bars.
And I'm like, you were saying? And I did
fucking love when that happens.
I'm like, I'm going to hold you to the fire. You get that you asked dudes that don't even have Illinois driver's licenses
mm-hmm.
before you asked us.
Mm-hmm.
Before you would let us do it. And he was just like, yeah, but it's I think it was about him. It was fine if another guy could do it and he couldn't.
But if he allowed his wife to do it, then all the other men would be like, dude.
Yeah. And then joke's on all of them because
mm-hmm.
then he let them all fall like dominoes. And then my mom and I
in a good way, he just let all the other men make themselves look like fucking idiots until, yikes.
So
I love that for you.
Thank you. It felt pretty good. It was good. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit because I want to dig in.
Pivot?
Because is there a character that you can think of that you really liked back in the day, and now that you know better, you have lived more, you are more self-actualized, you're more of a whole ass person, that you're like,
Yikes.
yeah,
Tom Selleck, maybe.
okay.
I just thought of it.
Tom Selleck, she says. The fuck? This bitch. Tom Selleck is just a person. Is there a character that he played?
Well, it's almost like Blue Bloods. He was in Blue Bloods, and then he always was like this big, like, caretaking daddy figure. And
now
he just, like, if we I don't want to go too political, but he's very much like, oh god, toxic as fuck. Very, very doesn't even want to hear it.
So that is so upsetting. I'm so sorry. It is also not even remotely relevant to the
fair.
She said Tom Selleck. I'm asking her about misogyny in pop culture, and she's like, you know who fucking sucks? Tom Selleck. His politics are shit.
I was so upset when he turned into an asshole.
But the point is that this was not the point. Oh my god. For fuck's sake.
Well, what was yours?
So many.
Like, give me, like...
Well, I loved Sex in the City back in the day.
Oh, Mr. Big?
Well, no. Why does it always have to be a dude with you? Do you even know there's women on television and movies? Have you noticed any of them?
Yes.
Because
I'm like Samantha, bro. I've gotten to that point where I used to want to be Carrie. I used to, but it's like, oh, Miranda's so smart. I wish I was smart like Miranda. And then I was like, Carrie's so, she's out there. She's like doing the clothes and and I was like, I'm 44 now and I'm like Samantha all day, dude.
Dude, how do you have the I don't know how she had the energy. I don't know how you'd have the energy. She was just
perimenopause and rage,
bopping around town. Well, but even that, like, even in the show, there was a huge double standard between, like, the way she was treated versus the way, like, Big and any of these other guys who were fucking around were treated.
1,000%.
And it made her character have to revolve around men so much.
Well, Samantha was there for the tales. I think that she had
but her tales were almost exclusively about dudes.
Well, how she sexualized dudes.
But okay, but is that enough? Her story was, I think, okay, no, this is exactly it. For the time, we were like, yeah, she is. Like, damn, because we hadn't seen that.
Correct.
So, but now, like, looking back, you're like, or they could have just had a show. Like, you know what? You know who did it and did it right? The Golden Girls.
Yes.
They were fully formed characters with issues outside of just
men. They lived their lives.
They talked about things that had nothing to do with men.
Correct.
And I get it. It was Sex and the City. Like, it's about sex, and she's hetero because everybody in the first iterations was hetero. I watch it back and I'm like, ooh. Like, yikes. But then it was like revolutionary that she's like, oh, what, she doesn't want to be married? That's an option? That's not an option.
Well, then they villainize she always goes out and drinks and she always does this and she's never Charlotte was the one to settle down. Charlotte was the one that wanted the nuclear family. Samantha was like, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna I'm gonna make my millions of dollars at my PR company and I'm just gonna I'm gonna over sexualize men. Like, she was considered the female version of what a male, like the male misogynistic trope in that kind of show would have been. She was that version. And I think that's what I respected about her, was like, she was that, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do because it makes me happy. I make the money. I have the house. I have the car. I have all the things. And now I'm just going to have fun. Yeah. And if it means I'm going to give somebody a blowjob in the locker room at my, after my cycling class, so be it. But it was the unapologetic person that she was that was attractive to me.
Well, and I think the thing is, at the time, it was like, oh my God, you're not seeing this. Like, it also, the there, with the exception of Golden Girls, the unicorn of television programming, I think it was exciting to see like the way men always talk about women talking about men.
Mm-hmm.
It made it was very sex positive. I think in that way it was really helpful.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think they really represented, when Carrie gets left at the altar and like how hard they ride for her. Like,
Correct.
but I think like even these cool girls, their stories revolve around men.
Yeah.
But like we didn't think about that because it felt so innovative. I think the reason, because I'm surprised whenever misogyny is like cropping up for me.
Mm.
And I think it's because it is that insidious, like, look what Samantha gets to be, the empowered instead of being a slut.
Yeah.
And oh, look at Carrie's like living alone in New York and whatever. And oh, she's a sex columnist. But like,
and she gets buy shoes. That's what makes her cool.
right. But their stories all mostly revolved around men.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
Well, the male gaze too, right?
Right.
I need to wear this to be able to do this to get this person to look at me
Correct.
and love me.
So I think that is how it kept perpetuating in terms of like what we were taking in with our pop culture, because we're like, look at how empowered they are, and not even realizing like it was that talk about the air we breathe. Like we were just out here like, damn, okay, look at her fucking this guy on his desk. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
look at Charlotte wanting to be a cute little trad wife, and oh, she's converting to Judaism. All the while, we're quietly like, men are the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships are the most important thing. Marriage.
Like, don't do anything to make him mad.
Right.
You might lose him.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's why I like Samantha, because she didn't give a fuck.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. They did hit on a few times that she was like lonely and that it wasn't like always fulfilling.
The only time she went and got into the lonely aspect of that is when she was going through cancer.
Yeah.
And then she took the hot young piece.
Yeah.
And I think did she get married with him? I don't remember, but she was with him for there was a long-term relationship. They moved to LA because she didn't want to go through it alone.
Right. But that's my thing is like,
you still need that partner.
Yeah.
But couldn't you just
like, why couldn't we just have a show about 4 women who are friends and one likes to fuck? There's just these through lines that even when we're like, this is like so empowering, you know what I mean? Like, even like Rachel from Friends, which I was a big Rachel stan. She's like wants to do her career and all this stuff, but like ultimately
she left her husband at the. Did he leave her, or she left him at the altar?
She left him at the altar.
Yeah. So it was the first episode was her in a wedding dress.
Her life was set out for her, and then look at, she like bucked that trend.
Now look at her; she's an independent woman.
Yes, but then ultimately, most of her storylines were about men. Ross, Ross of it all.
But to be the devil's advocate.
You mean the man's advocate? Why don't you just say it like it is?
But they had this unit of friendships.
Right, but his
to get that male point of view.
But his career didn't take hits like her career took hits for it.
Well, Ross was a paleontologist. He had his whole, like, what if Rachel had been a neurosurgeon and she had went to school for that and she wasn't going to change up her profession? Like, she didn't go from a job she had been in or a profession she had been in, as soon as she graduated college, and this is going to be her profession.
Yeah, but she worked her way up from like not like being a waitress to like working for Ralph Lauren.
And that's awesome. I would never take that away from her. But Ross was a paleontologist, went to school for paleontology, and his job was just it was just
more important than hers.
No, it was just a fixture. Like, it didn't change. It was never changing because that was his passion, and that's what he got right after college.
So I get what you're saying, that it was just like a fixture of who he was.
Right. I mean, it was a part of his character, but it was never changing.
It wasn't part of his character development.
Correct.
But it was still talked about a ton. Like, even though it wasn't dynamic, it was talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And she made a lot more career sacrifices than he did.
Fair.
If he was so educated and so well respected, he should have more leeway as opposed to somebody who's just like trying to come up in a business. Right? Like, shouldn't he be the one to like make big moves? Because he could
make big moves.
Right. So I have an interesting statistic for you.
Oh, give it to me.
In the show Friends, Jill and Monica's major life milestones are 70% relationship centered. Ross and Chandler's are 50% career centered. What does that
Well,
say?
society is like men have to have the career and women have to catch the guy. I'm not
Right.
saying it's right.
No,
I'm just saying
exactly.
the men have to have
Right.
the money to make to provide, and the
Yeah.
women have to have the good looks, the fashion. That
Right.
Monica had to cook. She had a whole catering business.
Yeah, but it never like was it took a really long time for it to be like in the forefront. It was
Right.
just like a throwaway thing or like a way to make like jokes and stuff like that.
Right.
And like she was constantly getting like sexually harassed or fucked with, you
Yes.
know. My thing is just that like there weren't any women or men central to a lot of the guys' stories, whereas it was always about a relationship in a lot of their situations.
Well, I think it was funny that you said that because it's like any of the relationships outside of their friend circle
Yeah.
were considered annoying.
Yes.
Like Janice with Chandler.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about Janice for a little bit.
Chandler Bing!
Janice is the crazy ex-girlfriend trope,
Correct.
right? Which has been hurting us since, I don't know, was Mary Magdalene a crazy ex-girlfriend? I don't know. It's been hurting us for a long time here, people. But like, if she had been a dude, would it have been cute? It was like, think about, okay, so I was a big fan of How I Met Your Mother.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, so that's a story about, it's an ensemble cast, it's friends, they've known each other forever, and then one new girl comes. But it's basically, the premise is like this man is supposedly telling his kids the story of how he met their mother.
Yes.
So it's by definition a romantic show, or by the premise. This man does not take no for an answer from Robin Schabatsky. Like, so many times she's like, no, this isn't gonna work. And he just like is dogged in his pursuit of her. And it's like cute and romantic and but Janice is crazy.
They tried everything in her character development to make her annoying to everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
But if they would have made her like Monica or Rachel,
yeah,
she would have stuck around and fucked up the whole vibe.
I just think it's indicative. This is the thing, like if you pick apart one character at a time, like you can argue why any character had to be whatever weird thing they were. But okay, so Friends has me thinking about this. Okay, have you seen The Notebook?
Yes, I
The
have.
Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams,
Yes.
Nicholas Sparks.
Love it.
We all want to be kissed in the rain.
Correct. What do you want?
Remember the whole thing about how he writes her how many, like 365 letters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we thought that was hot.
Yeah, romantic.
Right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Rachel writes one 18-page note front and back about her feelings. And we are like, this poor motherfucker tried to stay awake, but he could not because she had it front and back. So like, why is it cute that Noah's out here writing you a letter a day for a year? That's probably more than 18 pages front and back. Yet, Rachel, who's trying to make up with this guy who got his dick wet immediately upon thinking they were broken up. Some people are yelling at me because they were on a break. Fuck Rachel. And that's fine. As long as it's not because she's the woman, but just because you don't like her. But then examine why. That's all I'm asking. But really, I mean, if a guy is standing outside your house with a boombox over his head, trying to win your affection.
What happens if it was a girl doing the same thing to a guy?
She's crazy.
She's a stalker.
Right.
The fuck? Block. Ghost.
Yeah.
Call the cops.
Right.
This bitch is crazy.
Yes. Claire Dunphy and
Ooh,
from Modern Family. Like she's crazy. They all bond about how crazy she is.
Well, she not even crazy.
She gets mad at him, but in general, it's sort of like, okay, but like he's still a really nice dad. He like actively sabotages shit with his shenanigans. But it's like, but he's so funny. Like, look at him and his son flying.
He's so dorky, but he's
drones.
cute.
Right.
Yeah.
All moms are just stressed all the time.
Yeah.
It's just
look at how many kids she has running around. Like, I mean, but she's got to have all that under control. And then here's dad making a fucking mess of things. And because she gets pissed off at him for making a mess of things, she's just being neurotic. It's like, no, bro, I told you 5 times not to do this shit. And you think it's cute. It's not. Fucking get your shit together.
Right. But
No,
I think
get it.
that's the thing is it's normalizing a lot of this shit. And that is the problem is that it's like too late by the time you figure it out. Like I can watch it now as an adult and a woman married to a man who has kids and clock it immediately and be like, hell no. Misogyny.
Yes.
Inside, outside, left side, right side.
Yeah.
It seems like it was everywhere.
Agreed.
Now they're on Front Street. No diggity.
No doubt.
I'm going to work hard to make this my catchphrase that, like, if you say something and I agree with it, I'm just going to go, no diggity. I think that's cool. It sounds good.
Go for it. I support you in all things.
I know that's a problem.
Sometimes they call it enabling.
No diggity.
No doubt.